back to our next video. Today's lesson is functions. Let's see how the lesson flows up.
A relation. A rule which associates each element of set A with at least one element in set B is called a relation between the two sets. In the diagram you can see there are two sets naming X and Y, and arrows represent the relationship. So remember, every relationship is not a function. Basically, there are four types of relations. They are one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many. So out of these four, two of them are functions. They are one-to-one and many-to-one, while the other two are not functions. Let's now see what is the definition of a function. A function is a relation which uniquely associates elements of one set with the elements of another set. Each element in set A maps to only one element in set B. And sometimes we use the word mapping to function. Both words have the same meaning. And in the picture you can see there are four types of relations. Now try to identify out of them what are the functions. In the diagram A, it represents a function. The reason is each element of X uniquely associate with one element of Y. You may argue why B and C both are connected to Q, but remember, one element associates with only one element. And if you take B, this is not a function. What is the reason? If you take the element A that linked with two elements in set B, then the definition violates. If you take the diagram C, it is not a function. Why? Every element of A do not associate with elements in B. There are free elements. You can't have free elements in domain. And if you take D, it represents a function. Each element in A linked with one element in B. There is a very simple test to determine whether a given relation is a function or not. This test is called the vertical line test. If you know the shape of the graph, first sketch the shape and then hold a vertical line across the graph and find how many cut points you find. In each time, if there is only one cut point, then it is a function. Whenever you find more than one cut point, that shape does not give a function. Now there are few examples, so I leave them for you. Take little time and try them. After that, I will tell you the answers. Then you can check with your answers. I hope you all have your own answers with your hand. So now I will tell you the correct answers So cross-check your answers. Diagram number 1. If you check with a vertical line, easily you find this is a function. Graph number 2. Your vertical line test tells you this is a function because it cuts only one point in each time. Graph number 3. It is also a function. Graph number 4. It is not a function because when you test your vertical line test, it cuts 2 times. Therefore, it is not a function. Graph number 5. It is not a function because vertical line cuts twice. Graph number 6. If you carefully look into that, this represents a function. Graph number 7. It represents a function because in each time vertical line cuts only one point. Graph number 8. It is not a function because your vertical lines will cut 2 points. Graph number 9. It represents a function because your vertical line always cuts 1 point. Graph number 10. It represents a function. Graph number 11. It is not a function. Graph number 12. It is not a function. So I hope your answers are correct. More importantly, always think about the reasons. Now I am going to introduce a new term, domain. So you may be wonder what is a domain. Let's see. The domain of a function is the complete set of possible values of the independent variable. You should know what is the independent variable. In functions, most of the time independent variable is represented by x. Remember, the letter is not a problem. You can use any letter to represent the independent variable. The domain is the set of all possible x values which will make the function work and will output real y values. So what do we mean by the function work? That means sometimes there are values you cannot substitute into the function. So therefore, remember, the domain is the all possible x values. The second term is range. The word is familiar to us. Let's see what is the range. The range of a function is the complete set of all possible resulting values of the dependent variable. Usually it's y. Resulting values. What is the meaning of that? Resulting means when you substitute into the function, after simplifying you will get a value. Those values together make the range for that certain function. Now there is an obvious question, how to find this domain and range for a function. Most of the time with the function, domain should be expressed. It is given in the question. Otherwise, they will give you the shape and ask to find the domain and range. Whatsoever, if you have the equation to find domain or range, it is very easy if you can sketch the shape of it. Remember, in mathematics, sketches play a critical role. If we know the shape, then it is very easy to identify the range. Check the values in the domain and substitute that into the function. and identify the output values. If we know them according to the value, so we can easily arrange the range. Let's do a small exercise. For each of the three following questions, the domain is given and the function is given in words form. Now you are supposed to find the range of each of the given function. Take some time and do it yourself. After that, I will give you the answers and then you can cross-check your answers. Okay, now let's see the correct answers. For the question part A, it said subtract 5 and the domain is given. Subtract 5 means from each of the x value you have to subtract 5 and form another set naming y, and that will be the range. 10 minus 5 is 5, 5 minus 5 is 0, and so on. Finally, x minus 5 is x minus 5. So fx equals x minus 5 will be the function here. Question part B. Double and add 3. Minus 2 double minus 4 plus 3 minus 1. Plus 2 double, that is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7, and so on. X into 2, 2x plus 3 is 2x plus 3. Part C, square and then subtract 1. Minus 3 squared plus 9, subtract 1, answer is 8. Minus 1 squared, 1, subtract 1, 0, and so on. In terms of x, x squared minus 1. So check your answers with my answers and see now how you are familiar with functions.
Let's see another example. This time the graph is y is equal to the positive square root of x plus 4. You can see the shape of the graph. I think you can understand why we can't take any value which is less than minus 4. If you substitute anything less than minus 4, the answer will be a square root of a negative number, which is not real. Therefore, x can take values which is greater than minus 4. Then the domain is clear. What are the values that x can take? The values which are greater than or equal to minus 4. So domain is then x is greater than or equal to minus 4. Let's see how to identify the range now. So the least value of the function is 0. It occurs when x equals minus 4. Thereafter, when x increases, y also increases. We cannot say at what point it will stop. Therefore, range is y is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, let's see another example. This time, a trigonometric function. Y is equal to sin x. So we know what is the shape of the graph. So the shape is here for you. And we know x can take any value. But graph never go above plus 1 and beyond minus 1. Therefore, the range will be minus 1 to plus 1. domain is the real number set. What is the question asked? It gives us two mappings, f and g, and question asks explain why fx is a function and gx is not a function. Let's sketch the shape of the two graphs. Fx is, when you see the shape of fx, we can see for every x value there is a function value. Actually, the changing point is when x equals 4, you can take the function value using the x squared plus 9. When you come to gx, neither of the two functions have a value when x equals 4. Therefore, gx doesn't have a value when x equals 4. Therefore, gx is not a function. Can you remember the definition of the function? It says each value of a set if there is a corresponding value. So it violates. Therefore, gx is not a function. Now it asks to find f3. Now 3 is less than 4. Therefore, you should select fx equals 4 minus x and substitute. Then you will get the function value. Now to find f10, we should select x squared plus 9. Why? Because 10 is greater than 4. Then you substitute 10 into the function. Part C. So they ask us to find the value of a such that fa is 90. You may be wonder, out of these two functions, which one we should select to solve this. Anyway, we take the x squared plus 9 first. X squared plus 9 is equal to 90. So you move 9 other side, then x squared equals to 81. X is equal to plus or minus 9. That means x equals plus 9 or minus 9. Now the argument, can we take x equals minus 9? Here you can't take it because the function defines when x is greater than or equal to 4. Therefore, you have one answer, that is x equals plus 9. Now we'll take the other part, fx equals 4 minus x. So 4 minus x is equal to 90. Then x is equal to minus 86. So that is correct. We can accept because minus 86 is less than 4. So therefore we have two solutions here. Our next subtopic is composition of functions. Composition of functions means for one function we input another function, maybe 2 or 3, but simply we will input one function to another function. Let's define two functions, fx equals 2x minus 3, gx equals x squared plus 2. So from the diagram, you can see the domain of gx is the range of fx. That means when you want to find the composition of g of fx, we input fx into g. That means the domain of gx is the range of fx. So simply we say instead of x terms in g, fx whole function. You substitute to write the composition function. We have basically two notations. The first one, g and within bracket fx, and then another one, g of f. That means g of f. So basically in books and when we are teaching, we use these two notations. Students, now let's see an example. Let's take fx is minus 4x plus 9 and gx is 2x minus 7. Let's find f of gx. That means you have to put gx into fx. So instead x terms in f, we put gx and then expand the bracket and simplify. then you will get f of gx. That is easy. Let's take another example. hx is 3x minus 5, gx is 2x squared minus 7x. So we are going to find g of hx. So that means we have to put hx into gx. hx is 3x minus 5. So we will put that into the x terms of gx. And we will simplify it with our usual simplifications. So square the bracket. So you will get 3 terms, square the first term, and 2 times the multiplication of 2 terms, and plus the square of the third term. And expand the brackets and simplify with your usual knowledge. Now there is an exercise for you. So you take some time and do. After that, I will tell you the correct answer. Let fx is 1 over x plus 2 and gx is 4x plus 3. So we are going to find f of gx. That means we have to put gx into f. It's easy. 1 over 4x plus 3 plus 2. So when you simplify, you will get 1 over 4x plus 5. So at the same time, we will find g of fx. So you replace x term in the function g by the function fx. So it is also not that difficult. Simplify carefully. So finally you will get the answer. G of fx equals 3x plus 10 over x plus 2. Now we take another example. fx is square root of x plus 2. Gx is x squared plus 3. So we are going to find f of gx and at the same time g of fx. So first we'll find f of gx. That means we have to put gx into fx. That is easy. Inside the square root you will put x squared plus 3 and plus 2 is outside. And now let's see g of fx. So that means square root x plus 2 have to be kept inside the gx. That means you have to square the square root x plus 2 and then simplify usually. Our next subtopic is inverse function. In mathematics, an inverse function is a function that reverses the given function. If the function f applied to an input x gives a result of y, then applying its inverse function to g to y gives the result x and vice versa. Now in terms of the diagram, if you think, if the function f is from a to b, then the inverse function is from b to a. There's an important point to remember. For a function to exist the inverse function, that function definitely should be a one-to-one function. If it is not a one-to-one function, we cannot find the inverse function. If we know the domain of the function, we can easily find the range of the function. And if we know the range of the function, that is the domain of the inverse function. And the domain of the function becomes the range of the inverse function. Remember, they interchange. Domain and range interchange each other. In terms of a graph, if we explain, inverse is always the reflection of the graph through the line y equals x. If you know the shape, and you can easily sketch the other one, inverse function, as a reflection through the line y equals x. So I will tell you easy steps to find the inverse function analytically. Whenever a function is given and asked to find the inverse function, step number 1, write y equals the given function, and then you swap x and y. That means if there are x terms, replace x terms by y and y term by x. Now try to solve the equation for y. Actually, you have to subject y. Now you have the inverse function. Whatever the result you get is the inverse function of the initial function. Now we are going to do an example. Fx is given as minus 7x plus 3. We are supposed to find the f inverse x. So remember the steps. First you write y equals the given expression and then interchange x and y. Therefore x equals minus 7y plus 3. Now subject y. This is a simple equation. You can easily subject y. Then you will get the expression for f inverse x. Here then f inverse x is 3 minus x over 7. Let's take an example. X squared plus 2x minus 3. The domain is given x is a real number and x is greater than or equal to minus 1. Let's see why the domain is given like that. First of all, we'll write the quadratic expression as a complete square form. So you need to find the middle term. So x squared plus 2x, the constant term we have to find. How to find the constant term? Divide the middle term by 2 and get the square of it. So we have to add it and subtract it as well. So then you simplify. First 3 terms together, it is x plus 1 squared and rest is minus 4. Now if you see the graph of that, you will see the turning point is minus 1 comma minus 4. So that's why they have given that domain starts at minus 1. If we get the domain beyond minus 1, then the graph is not 1 to 1. So domain can be adjusted for any function to be 1 to 1. Therefore we eliminate the left part and take the right part only. That function has an inverse function. So range of the function is y is greater than or equal to minus 4. Why? The smallest value that graph can take is minus 4. Therefore the range is y is greater than or equal to minus 4. Now let's see how to find the inverse. So you write y equals that expression and subject. First interchange x and y and then subject y, so that you will get the inverse of the function. When you take the inverse function, so we have to apply the square root for both sides. At this time we will take the positive square root, because if you take the negative square root, the condition given in the domain of the function violates. That's why we will omit the negative part. So therefore inverse function is equal to 1 plus square root x plus 4. Now the question is, what is the domain of the inverse function? The domain of the inverse function is the range of the function. So I will write domain and range of both here so you can easily understand them. So there's another question. Fx is 4x minus 1, gx is 3 over 2x minus 1. Here you can see the x is not equal to half, because if x equals half, gx does not exist at that point. So first we find f inverse of f. So as usually we write y equals expression and subject y, so that you can easily get f inverse x plus 1 over 4. Now we are going to find the composition of g and f, that is g of fx. So you can put fx nicely into the gx and simplify. So remember to take the common denominator, otherwise you will mislead to an answer. You can easily simplify and get the answer 13 minus 2x over 2x minus 1. And remember, here also x does not equal to half. And there is an equation to be solved. 2fx equals gx. So we substitute them and simplify. 2 times fx is 4x. So you first cross multiply and expand the brackets. You will get a quadratic equation. It is not that easy to solve. You have to use the formula to solve the quadratic equation. Get answers in terms of a square root. But if you are using a calculator, you can easily find the answers of that quadratic equation. There's another question. Fx equals 3x plus a and gx equals b minus 5x. Question is find a and b given that g inverse f inverse minus 1 is equal to 1 and g inverse 7 is equal to 1. So there are two conditions, but I will use the second conditions first because easily we can find the value of b using that. That means first find inverse of g and substitute the value 7 and equal that to 1. And then you solve it, you can easily get the value of b is 12. So having that value in hand, we know what is g inverse x. G inverse x is 12 minus x over 5. Now we'll write what is g inverse f inverse x. To write that, first you need to find the f inverse x. So using your inverse function knowledge, you find inverse of f and then find the composition of g inverse f inverse x. That means you have to put f inverse x into g inverse x. So the equation is little tricky. Remember to take the proper denominator. So you can easily cross multiply by 5 and take the 5 up in the other side and take 3 as the common denominator. Then 12 becomes 36 and then simplify it so that you will take the value of a is minus 22.
This is the end of our episode. I hope you understood the lesson well. If you have any questions or suggestions, you are free to comment here or email to me. I highly appreciate your feedback. Further, you can download many worksheets under this section from our Facebook site. I humbly request you to like the video and subscribe it. Last but not least, stay at home, cooperate with your health officials, wear a mask, wash your hands regularly, and stay home. Stay safe, carefully. Goodbye.